Hey everybody, welcome to today's lesson from Practice Drumming. My name is Lane and you'll see Joe playing in this video here today. So what we're going to work on is a syncopated ghost note beat. Now, this beat is nothing crazy, but it's groovy and it's fun. It's something you could use with a lot of different songs, just jamming along. There's different iterations you could use of this. So before we get into this, just as a reminder, at Practice Drumming, we try to minimize the amount of talking and maximize the amount of playing, right? Hands-on experience is ultimately going to get you what you want. So through these videos, I'm going to give you explanations, right? I at least want you to hear the logic of how you can put these beats together. Now, if you see this beat here and you can play this just by reading it, fantastic. Go for it. Now you've got another tool in your arsenal. If you look at this and it looks crazy and it doesn't seem like something achievable, no problem. We're going to break it down for you. So the way that this is set up and the cadence that we are using is I'll give a little explanation, tell you what my logic is, and then after that, there are practice videos. And the intent of these practice videos is that you play along with them. And they are at two different speeds, right? So you'll see that our practice videos here, we have at 80 BPM, and 110 BPM. All right, let's get into this here. So first, I always think it's useful. Let's just hear what this full beat sounds like before we even break it down. Let's listen. So you can hear it's got a nice syncopation to it. There's these little ghost notes in between. It's nothing too crazy. But also what we've tried to do is to make these tracks more fun and interesting to play along with. You're hearing three audio layers, one of which is obviously the drums, right? So you're hearing this layer. Metronome along with it as well. And then a backing track, right? Because I feel like one of the difficulties sometimes when you just hear random beats online is that I can't feel how this is going to be in context, to a larger musical piece. And so that's why those are there, just to give you a little bit of flavor. Okay, so knowing that this is the beat that we're going to be learning, let's just look at it from this state real quick before we break it down. First off, the right hand. The right hand's on the hi-hat. Could you move it to a ride cymbal? Absolutely. A crash cymbal, a splash cymbal, whatever. Totally. The right hand is just pulsing quarter notes, right? Just 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Okay. Through all of these exercises, the right hand is going to continue to pulse that quarter note. We're just going to break down different aspects of the kick and the snare. Speaking of the snare, let's go there next. You can also see the snare has nice little accents on 2 and on 4, right? So those are unison with your right hand. So right hand and left hand are going to come down in unison on 2 and 4. Now you can hit a rim shot here if you want. It's totally fine as well, but just know that's where they're going to be. Otherwise, we have a lot of other syncopations. Like you see these little notes here in parentheses. These are our ghost notes. There's some kicks on uhs. There's a whole bunch of other funkiness going on here. So let's get to step 1 and talk about how can we get, if you look at this and think, gosh, I don't feel like I could just jump into that. Totally fine. Let's step you towards it. Starting with step 1. Just looking at the music real quick and then we'll listen to it. We're taking the snare completely out of the equation. There's no snare drum in this to start. We're just going to have pulsing quarter notes with our kick pattern. All right, let's take a listen. All right, here is what I am seeing when I see this pattern right here. First off, again, we're just seeing consistent quarter notes on the hi-hat. Nothing crazy. I'm also noticing that my right foot is going to come down with my right hand on beats 1 and 3. So in your mind, anchor yourself there. Know that when you get to beats 1 and 3, both of your right limbs should be coming down at the same time. That's a way that you're going to know you're on the right path, okay? There's really 2 other elements that I see. First off, these uhs, right? There's an here and there's an here. So you can think about this like one little unit, right? And it just gets repeated over here. And the way that I like to think about this is that, again, my right limbs are coming down at one time. So here, let's get a little zoomed in here so we can kind of... Okay. So right limbs coming down at the same time, right? So right hand comes down. Then your right foot is going to lead you into that next right hand, right? So it's like together, kick hand, right? Right? Let's hear it again. Do you see how this kick note leads you into that next right hand there? So again, you can think about it. If you're going to package this in your mind, your right limbs are coming down together, and then your right foot leads you into that next right hand. If you can get that, there's really just one other element, which is essentially just breaking up beat 2, between beat 2 and 3 here with this kick on and. 1, 2, and. 1, 2, and. Let's hear it back again. All right, let's take a listen to this at 110, just so you can get a sense of what it feels like a little quicker. Do you hear how even that, just on its own, has some really nice groove? Like you could even start off a song like that just to get the feel and the pulse going a little bit. So again, remember, these videos are meant to be practice videos. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take these practice videos and start it at 80, right? Even if you feel like 80 feels a little slow, that's fine. Get it ingrained into your system. Repeat it once or twice, however long you need to feel comfortable with it, and then move on to step 1 at 110. All right, get going. Okay, step 2 here. Now, remember, again, you can always go backwards. You can always go forwards. If you feel like you work on step 2, it's not vibing, you need to go back to step 1, totally fine. Before we get into step 2, I always like to get the final product in our ear so we know what we're going for. Let's listen to it one more time here real quick. This is the full beat. This is step 5. I just want you to have this in your ear so that when you're listening to step 2, you know what ultimately it's going to become. Here you go. Okay, let's skip back to step 2 here. Now, I want to use a similar thought process for moving through step 2. So before we even do this again, let's go through, do real quick analysis. Nothing changes with the right hand, right? quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, set that aside in your head. You just know your right hand is always doing these quarter notes. I also personally like to figure out where are my anchor points, meaning for me, knowing that I have limbs in unison makes it easier for me to know I'm on the right track. So 2 and 4, my snare and hi-hat are together. Surprise, surprise, right? Super classic. Know that if you are playing your snare with your right hand on 2 and 4, you're good to go. Let's take a listen to this real quick, and then we'll break down these other ghost notes. Here we go. All right, at 110, let's take a listen to that. Okay, so thinking back to step 1. Step 1 was just both of your right limbs. Step 2 is just your hands, right? You're only using your hands. So again, quarter notes on the hi-hat. Anchor point is that we have an accent on 2 and 4, where both of our hands are coming down together. So if that's the case, we really only have 3 other notes to deal with. This one here, here, and here. Now here's the way I like to think about these. Let's break this down as a unit because this is the same thing as this, right? 1 is the same as 3 here. When we were in step 1, we were thinking about how this kick note led into our right hand, right? Now, if we go to step 2 here, you can see it's a really similar thing, except just in reverse, right? Our right hand is leading into our left hand. So we go right, left, right? Right, left. So we have right, left, together. Hat, snare, together. Hat, snare, together. Hat, snare, together, right? That happens here, together. Hat, snare, together. So if you've got that, hat, snare, together, you have 90% of the beat, right? We just need to add in this last little piece. And this last little piece is going to kind of loop us back around, right? So with that in mind, let's take a listen one more time so you can kind of hear how this hat, snare, together, how that works out, and then how this other little note kind of leads us into it again. It's a really nice way to turn it around. Okay, so when I hear this last here, this of 4, what I'm hearing is really just kind of like a throwback to this E right here, but on the other side, right? As opposed to this little ghost note coming after the hi-hat, it's leading into it. So you can think about this turnaround, getting from the end of the beat back to the top of the beat, that you're just going back and forth between your snare and your hi-hat, right? So I'm just going snare, hat, snare, snare, hat, snare, right? That's what turns me around, right? So I'm going hat, snare, together, hat, snare, together, snare, hat, snare, together, right? This is just turning me around, just left, right, left. That's all it is, right? All right, let's take a listen one more time with that in mind. Okay, to start, what I would encourage you to do is to think a little less about ghost notes and accents if that's feeling like too much. If you're just struggling with the rhythm, just work on the rhythm, right? You can always layer yourself up here. So if you're struggling with ghost notes and accents, those don't naturally come to you, not a problem. Just work on the rhythm in the way that I described it. If you are feeling like the rhythm is comfortable for you, then I do want you to focus on the ghost notes and the accents. And what I think is nice about that is that the accents are in unison here, right? We don't have any offbeat accents. We just have these accents with your hands together on 2 and on 4. So the way you can think about it is when my hands play together, I'm going to give that snare a nice hard smack, and that's fine. You want to give it a rim shot? Great, totally cool. Then try to keep those ghost notes little. Now, this is an art. This is not something that, ghost notes always have to be a certain volume. I think it's dependent on what you're doing. But what I would also say is that when it comes to drumming, we don't have melodies, right? We're not like a guitar or a piano where we can create melodies that we can follow. And so in my mind, when I think about how do we make drums melodic, it really comes with dynamics. Dynamics are the melody of drumming, right? So I do think it is worthwhile to try and separate these as much as possible, meaning try to get your ghost notes as little as you can and try to get your accents to really pop. Now, I don't want you to go too far to the extreme on either end, but if you have the control to really get your ghost notes quiet and to really have a nice strong accent, it means that you'll have the ability to make the adjustments as you want. You might realize, you know what, I'm actually hitting my accents way too hard. They just sound obnoxious. Well, that's fine. You can kind of bring them back a little bit. But when you come to it with that mindset, you're not just coming to it from a technical standpoint or from a technical standpoint, you're coming to it from a musical standpoint. So again, with that in mind, same deal. Step 2, you're going to practice it at 80. You're going to practice it at 110. Okay, so these next two steps, step 3 and 4, which are ultimately going to get you to step 5, which is the full beat, are kind of some funky iterations. And our approach here, instead of just building, beat 1 into beat 2 into beat 3 into beat 4, was to more think about the skills that we're trying to develop, right? In terms of how are our syncopated kick and snare notes interacting with our right hand. So it's not like we're just building beat on beat on beat on beat, right? We're building skills, because ultimately these skills that you're learning here to be able to have syncopated kick and snare notes should hopefully help give you the ability to play other syncopated beats. So with that in mind, step 3 here, let's take a listen before we get started, get it in our ear, and then we'll talk about it. Here we go. This is step 3 at 110. When I hear that, in my mind, the first thing that pops out to me is this super consistent kick pattern, right? Boom, 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 right? I'm really hearing that, which, if we go back to step 1, we see is just this first half here, right? 1, and 1, and. It's just repeated, right? That's the first thing I'm hearing. So with that in mind, what else are we doing here? Well, we've got these snares on 2 and 4, which should feel really natural. What we're trying to do is just feel comfortable sneaking that little ghost note in. Now, you'll notice the first half of this beat and the second half of this beat, very similar. Not exactly the same thing, very similar. If you wanted, you're welcome to put this little ghost note here as well. For this scenario, we didn't do it just so you could focus on it one time. But if it feels more comfortable for both halves to be symmetrical, not a problem at all. What we're trying to do is get you comfortable with getting that consistent kick pattern going, as well as being able to sneak in that little ghost note after you have your right limbs together here, right? That's the point of this exercise. So we're going to keep this explanation short. That's really what I want you to focus on, right? If this kick pattern is not feeling comfortable for you, go back to step 1. If this snare pattern is not feeling comfortable to you, go back to step 2. If they are feeling comfortable, then you can focus on step 3 here, either just sneaking in that ghost note here on the E of 1, or you're also welcome to put it here on the E of 3. But the point is, and what I want you to focus on is first rhythmically getting all of this accurate, right? Just order of operations. All your limbs have to be firing when they're supposed to be coming down. And when you feel comfortable with that, trying to focus on getting that ghost note to be quiet, because what's going to be really easy to do is when you don't have both of or all 3 of your limbs going, like here, it's a lot easier to just focus on getting your ghost notes quiet. But what's really easy to slip up is when you get here to make this ghost note not a ghost note. Same deal as before. Practice along at 80 and 110. Good luck. All right, here's step 4. Before we say anything about it, let's just listen. Here's step 4 at 80. $110. What's coming to mind for you when you hear this? I'll tell you what's coming to mind for me. What is immediately popping out to my ear is that the left hand is a lot more active, right? I have significantly more ghost notes here. This step is to try to help you step up the number of ghost notes that you're playing without going too crazy with the kick, right? And actually, to be honest, this beat stands alone. I would say that this could even be, we could have been building up to this beat the whole time. That's kind of why I like how these are broken up, because step 3 and 4 do kind of have a nice groove to them as well, moving you into step 5. So let's just quickly recap everything we've spoken about, because I don't really have anything new to say about this. I think it's just another opportunity to practice everything that we've talked about. I think this kick has a really nice pulse, right? We've got kicks on 1 and on 3, beautiful anchor points. This kick on is going to lead you in to this kick or this hi-hat and snare on 2, right? Otherwise, what I would really want you to be focusing on is getting these ghost notes to be controlled. It doesn't have to be wild. It's, I'm not saying that your ghost notes have to be a millimeter off the drum. What I'm saying is I want you to be conscious enough of what your left hand is doing that it's not just on autopilot right now. You will ultimately want your left hand on autopilot, but I want you to be conscious of trying to get these ghost notes to be really small, right? I would say if you struggle with this step, there's a couple things you could do. One is you could go back to step 2, right? Just focus on these hand patterns, because this is no different. It's just a re-swizzling of this. The other thing you could do is you could really focus on the slower speeds here, right? I would actually encourage you for this one, really listen, right? Spend a few times just listening and get it into your ear. And if you've spent a good amount of time on step 1, 2, and 3, step 4 here should, oh, I'm seeing a problem here. This says step 3, that should be step 4. Good thing we're catching that now, right? So step 4, this is step 4, should really be just one last final exercise for you to make sure that all of the elements are coming together. This quarter note hi-hat, these syncopated ghost notes, as well as kick notes, and then getting those nice, strong accents on 2 and 4. Same thing as usual. Practice at 80 and 110. Good luck. Hey, congratulations for making it through to step 5. So step 5 is really just steps 1 and 2 put directly on top of each other. Let's take a listen to all of them. Here is step 5. We're actually going to start it at 110 so you can really feel that groove. Okay, I'm curious if now that you have that in your ear, if you can hear how steps 1 and 2 ultimately become that. So here's step 1. Remember, this is just focusing on your kick. Here's step 2. This is just focusing on your snare. So if there is anything I hope that you have taken away from this full series is that a beat like this, any of the other steps that we did, are all just the same building blocks, right? Quarter note hi-hat. We have really what is like a backbeat feel with a snare on 2 and 4. And then we have some fun syncopations, trying to keep in mind that particularly with your snare on those ghost notes, trying to be conscious of those dynamics allows you to add a little bit of more melody into your drumming. So what I would want you to focus on for this last step is I really want you to focus on trying to memorize this beat, play along with these tracks, and then once you feel comfortable with it, turn off these tracks, go put on a song. One of the things I enjoy doing the most is just putting music on and improvising to it. It feels really freeing to me. It feels very expressive to me. And when I get these in my toolbox and sometimes I just let my hands go, I end up doing things that I maybe wouldn't have done otherwise. And it feels very fun and creative. So again, congratulations on making it through to the end of this. I would encourage you to play along with these play along videos at 80, at 110, so that you do have a little bit of that practice. And then once you're feeling comfortable, commit it to memory, go play along to a song. Thanks for taking the time to go through this. I am really appreciative that you decided to spend your time here with us today. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much.